Now we're going to look at the depot area and yard area, which is just north there, as you saw, just barely north of Eclipse. So this is a cool photo, because often there really weren't a lot of people photos, but this was taken, we think, out in front of the depot. This is a guy named Bill Burkhart, Ed Damson, who later became train master at Everett, right? I think that's what his, but he was just a switchman, a yard switchman in those days. Roy Nelson and Eugene Keefe.
That's my great uncle.
Right here?
Eugene Keefe.
Oh, how funny. Yeah.
I would love to have them.
Of course. $49.95, just kidding. This photo came from me from Carl Johnson, who's a guy named Russell Johnson's son. Russell worked the NP in this area and was another one of those railroaders that took photos. So of course you can have it for nothing, because he gave it to me for nothing. But he's scanned a lot of his dad's stuff. And then here's some pictures of the depot. This is looking southeast, so this is the Pacific Avenue crossing here. So the original depot was built in 1892 by the Everett and Monte Cristo, and it's basically right here on the other side of Pacific Avenue. It was just a real simple little rectangular building with a shed roof on it, slanting one direction. And when the NP came, they quickly decided they needed a bigger structure. This part of the depot was built first, and then that was 1902, did we decide? Yeah, 1902, 3, 4. And then they added this freight room on, and then as you'll see in later photos, they ended up taking the freight room back off. What happened after local freight service kind of dried up, because they used to do boxcar loads of stuff, but then railroads also were like the first UPS. They would ship what's called less than carload, or LCL stuff, so you could ship packages across the country on the railroad. They would come to places like this, and they would unpack them, and you could go get them. Railway Express Agency was the biggest handler of that stuff. When that business dried up due to trucking and UPS and things like that, a lot of railroads would chop the freight room off their buildings. Does anybody know why? Taxes. Property tax was a huge, huge expense for railroads. And so anytime they could make a structure smaller, they generally would do it, especially if it was dilapidated like this area was, because the freight room wouldn't have been heated. And of course, as you know, the ground down here is really soggy, so it's really starting to look pretty sad by that time. This was taken sometime in the 60s, we think. And there's a reason why you often see cars on this track when you see photos of this area. Does anybody know why?
Waiting.
Yes, they're waiting for something particular, though. Does anybody know what they're waiting for? There's a scale track right here. And very often you have to weigh loaded cars after they were loaded by a local industry, and so they would line up cars there and push them across the scale to get the weight. This is another one of those train order signals here. As you can see, as with most depots, you have a bay window pushing out so that the telegraph operator can actually look down the track and see what's coming. So that's a big reason for those bay windows. And you can see a couple of signs here which are kind of cute. I don't know if we can get in far enough here or not. Yeah, keep engines off the live rail for the scales, because engines weren't designed to be on there. It'd break the scales. So they could push cars on, but they had to stay off. Private parking, no automobiles, no bicycles allowed on the platform. Okay. And then we've got a photo after it's been shortened. See the freight room's gone here, and you've got, let's see, who do we have in this photo? Whoops. We've got Yardmaster. Sorry, that's what Ed Damson became after switchman. Yardmaster, not trainmaster. Ed Damson, telegraph operator Eddie Powell. Not sure about him, and unfortunately not sure about him. But this was May of 1963, after the depot was shortened, just very recently, very short period of time before that. And this is looking southwest. So we were looking at this corner before. Now we're looking at kind of the street side of the depot. This is from 1967, a little bit later, but the building was pretty much unchanged. And this is, remember, the good part of the depot. Look at the sad shape that roof's in. It's pretty crazy. Here you have the tower from the Eclipse Mill still there after the fire. And this is another photo from that same corner, just in color, taken from '68. So that's that building. And it was raised in, I think, '71, very shortly after the NP-GN merger in March of 1970.